Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're cracking the code on marathon pacing. We're going to move past just gut feelings and really dig into the hard data, the science and the stats behind running your best possible race. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the pacing puzzle itself. Then we'll define the three main strategies you can use. After that, we'll dive deep into what the data says, see how the weather messes with everything, and finally put it all together so you can build a plan for your own goal. So let's start with a big question. Why are we even talking about pacing? I mean, why is it so incredibly important? Well, it all comes down to avoiding a total race day disaster. I'm sure many of you know this feeling all too well, hitting the wall. It's that moment deep into the race where you just feel completely and utterly spent. But here's the thing, it's not just a feeling. It's a real physiological event, and it's directly tied to how you've been spending your energy from the very first mile. And that's where your pacing strategy comes in. According to a huge review of marathon research, your pacing strategy is basically your energy budget for the race. It's how you decide to spend your fuel. And honestly, it's the number one thing that determines if you finish strong or if you hit that wall. Okay, so even though a marathon is, this super complex thing, the research boils down all the different pacing approaches to just three main types. Let's break them down. First up, we've got the positive split. And this is the one you really need to know about. This is when you go out of the gates way too fast, and then, predictably, you slow down in the second half. It's super common, and it's the fastest way to burn through your fuel and hit that wall. Now, on the flip side, you have the negative split. This is the exact opposite. You run the second half faster than the first. The research is pretty clear that this is a much smarter way to run, helping you conserve that precious energy for a strong finish and, usually, a better time. And finally, we have what many consider the holy grail, the even split. This is all about consistency. You lock into a pace and you hold it, with very little change from start to finish. This is the strategy you see the elites use when they're aiming for peak performance. So we have our three strategies: starting fast, finishing fast, or holding steady. But what does the data actually say? Which strategy do most people really use? And more importantly, does it work? And wow, this chart right here, it just says it all, doesn't it? A massive systematic review found that a staggering 77% of marathon performances are positive splits. Just look at how much that one slice dominates the entire chart. Most people are starting too fast. Yep, 77%. Think about that for a second. More than 3 out of every 4 runners in these studies go out harder than they can actually maintain. This one number, it perfectly captures the most common mistake in marathon running. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the data shows this huge divide between the pros and everybody else. The top athletes, they've mastered the even or slightly negative split. The vast majority of us recreational runners, we fall right into that positive split trap. Okay, so it's not just about how you pace yourself. You're also running against something you can't control, the weather. And researchers have actually quantified exactly how much things like heat and humidity can throw your race plan completely off the rails. The science here is so clear. When it's hot, your body has to work overtime just to cool itself down, which leaves less energy for, actually running. And this isn't just a feeling. The data is super specific. For every single degree Fahrenheit above an ideal 60 degrees, your pace slows down by about 0.4%. Now, take a look at this table, because this is where the numbers get real. On a warm day, say 75 degrees Fahrenheit, boom, you should be adjusting your pace by 6%. But look what happens when it gets really hot, 85 degrees with some humidity. We're talking a massive 12% hit to your pace. This isn't guesswork, it's what the data tells us. So what does that actually look like on your watch? Well, this next table breaks it down perfectly. Let's say your goal pace is a solid 7-minute mile. On that 75-degree day, just to put in the same amount of effort, you need to be running a 7:25 mile. If you try to ignore that and force a 7-minute pace, well, you are practically guaranteeing yourself a miserable positive split. All right, so we've got the pacing strategies, we've got the weather data. The big question is, how do we combine all this to actually plan our race? Let's put these numbers into practice for a couple of really common marathon goals. Let's start with a big one, the sub-4-hour marathon. To do this, you need to average about a 9:09 per mile pace. So let's see what a perfectly executed, data-driven, even split strategy actually looks like on the clock. As you can see right here on this chart, to break 4 hours with a perfect even split, you have to hit that halfway mark at exactly 2 hours. There is zero banking time. It is all about disciplined execution, hitting those 5K splits right around 28 minutes and 25 seconds, over and over again. Okay, what about the really ambitious sub 3 hour goal? Well, here, the need for precision gets even more intense. We're talking about maintaining an average pace of about 6:52 per mile. And this table just shows you how razor thin that margin for error really is. A sub 3 runner has to hit the half marathon mark right around 1 hour and 29 minutes. Any major slip up, especially going out too fast by even just a few seconds per mile, and the data shows your chances of hitting that goal drop dramatically. It is a true game of precision. So, the key takeaway here is pretty clear, right? While a whopping 77% of us fall into that positive split trap, the data screams that a disciplined, even or slightly negative split, one that's carefully adjusted for the weather, is the smartest path to your best marathon. Thanks for watching The Explainer.